I'm just looking at the latest polls here on voting, and it is absolutely insane. It is insane. Let's see. Nearly 6 in 10 Americans, 59%, disagree with President Trump that Republicans should take over the voting in 15 states in order to nationalize the 2026 midterm elections. 19% say they would favor the idea. I'm with the 6 in 10. I don't think we should do that. I don't want to nationalize it. That's only going to lead to trouble, and that is not what the Constitution says. It's got to be run by the state. The federal government needs to oversee it. That's also in the Constitution. But I don't like nationalizing elections. Asked who is more likely to rig November's midterm elections. How do you think that goes? 44% say the Republicans. 33% say the Democrats. 11-point margin. Wait, it gets worse. Far more Americans disagree, 50%, than agree, 34%, with the statement, Democrats bring undocumented immigrants to our country to vote and help them vote illegally. Republicans agree, 73%, rather than disagree, 11%. Americans are more divided over the question whether fraudulent voting by undocumented immigrants is rare and it does not influence the outcome of elections. 42% agree. 36% say it is common and it does influence the outcome of elections. And then they split right down the middle when asked the same question about fraudulent voting, mail-in voting. Okay, 40% to 40%. Far more Americans say they would favor, 62%, than oppose, 23%, requiring proof of citizenship. The number is 62 now. Usually in the form of a passport or a birth certificate in order to register to vote. Nearly all Republicans, 89%, favor the idea. Democrats are divided. 39% now in favor, 45% opposed. That is completely different than what we have been seeing. Making it harder to vote by mail, 46% opposed, 38% favor. Making it harder to vote early in person, 57% opposed, 21% favor. Banning or cutting back on mail-in ballot drop boxes, 42% opposed. Shortening the early or absentee voting period, 41% opposed. I don't believe this. I just don't believe this. I find this really hard to believe. But if those numbers are true, I mean, you're going to see this is what they're going to go after. If they try to, drag this, vote out, this is what they're going to go after. They're going to go after, the Republicans are rigging it, blah, 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 blah. So far, that's not working. If this is true, maybe it is working, but this just doesn't feel right to me because it's too much of a swing. But God only knows America changes on a dime. Now, John Cornyn is warning that there is going to be a GOP massacre. John Cornyn, of all people, a GOP massacre if Texas votes for Ken Paxton as the AG. He wins the primary. He says it's going to be a massacre. Okay, I'm not listening to you, John Cornyn. I'm not listening to you. You are the reason the GOP is going to be massacred all over the country. Not Ken Paxton. Now, that's a separate issue. Maybe, maybe not. But I'm not listening to John Cornyn tell me anything about what the Republicans can do because it's people like John Cornyn that has gotten the Republican Party where it is. Remember, Donald Trump is not a Republican. He's not a Republican. He is a guy who's turning the tables over. He's not going with Republican policies. He's spent the last 10 years trying to get enough momentum so he can actually change. Republican policies are, let's go to war. Let's spend even more money. I mean, it's all progressive. It's all progressive. And John Cornyn is one of the main leaders of that. So please, give it a rest. Republicans This time around, if they don't stand for the things that they've told us they were going to do, and I'm telling you, the SAVE Act is one of them. It's critical. Look at what you've already done. Look at how you've handled the Epstein thing. You think that helped you? You're not only risking the midterms, you're risking the party. If you keep pretending that procedure is principle, you're going to help lose the republic. And this time, if you fail this time, you're not going to be just blamed by the left. You're going to be blamed by your own voters. It's going to happen, John. Your own voters, they've had enough. You will be blamed by your own voters, and you'll deserve it. Look at the difference between John Cornyn. How long has he been in office, and what has he accomplished? Look at the difference. President Trump comes into office. He moved like a man who understood the clock was ticking. Executive orders. Why? Because he couldn't get Congress to move. Regulatory rollbacks. He moved faster than any other president in U.S. history. He has a clear vision. He is literally reshaping the entire world, trying to get rid of the people who are trying to force the U.S. taxpayer and citizen to live under their unelected officials and rules. He's changing all that. He's done all the heavy lifting. He's taken all of the arrows. He's forced the fight. And what is it, John Cornyn, you and the Republicans have done? You passed one big, beautiful bill that he practically had to jam down your throats. And you want to run on that? That's not leadership. That's hiding behind a man doing your job for you. So let me talk about the excuse of the hour. If I read one more time from a conservative, you can't touch the filibuster. Demanding a talking filibuster is dangerous. You're changing the rules. I'm going to lose my mind. Do you ever read? Do you even know what history is? Enforcing a talking filibuster does not eliminate the filibuster. It actually restores the filibuster. The modern filibuster is the silent one. It's a 20th century convenience. Cloture, a word nobody knows about, that was added in 1917. Gee, who was the president in 1917? Cloture gives you the 60-vote threshold, and they weaponized it in the late 20th century. What we have now is not tradition, it's drift. And that ball was starting to drift. From whom? Woodrow Wilson. From 1806 forward, if you wanted to block a bill, you had to stand up on your feet and you talked. You held the floor. You sweated. You read from cookbooks if you had to. You physically sustained opposition. That's not nuking the filibuster. That's requiring it. That's requiring courage. It's requiring that the Democratic, or whoever uses it, the senators who literally can barely stand, have to stand. You can't sit while delivering a filibuster. How many of the 90-year-olds can stand that long? And here's the real problem with the Republicans, and I'm going to say it. The reason why the Republicans are trying not to do it is because it's going to require them to show up in the middle of the night. It's going to require them to do hard things. And they don't want to do that. They just want to go home. Historically, the talking filibuster was used to delay banking legislation in the 19th century. It was used during World War I. It was infamously used by the Southern Democrats to try to stop civil rights legislation, and they did in the 50s and early 60s. Strom Thurmond had his 24-hour speech against the Civil Rights Act in 1957. Notice something? Notice anything? They're all standing. When somebody believed that something mattered, whether they were right or wrong, they had to stand there and they had to pay the price. Today, a senator just sends a little email to leadership. I object. And then suddenly it's 60 votes to get this thing on the floor to vote. That's not constitutional reverence. That's laziness. The Save America Act has passed the House multiple times. It's overwhelmingly popular with the U.S. population. Voter ID polls through the roof, including among Democrats. And yet the Senate Republicans whisper, yeah, but we don't have 60. You don't need 60. Make them stand up and talk. Make them hold the floor. Make them defend opposing voter ID in front of the American people for days, weeks, months. I don't care how long it takes. That's not destroying Senate norms. Republicans, conservatives, pundits, you're not this stupid, are you? This is not destroying the filibuster. If they wanted to destroy the filibuster, I'd be with you. But I did my homework because I thought originally, wait a minute, we're changing the filibuster. I don't want to change this filibuster. I want the filibuster to go back the way it was with, Jimmy Stewart and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. That's what this is. That's what this is. And either you don't understand Senate history, which is unacceptable, or you do understand it and you're choosing comfort over confrontation. Both are failures. Meanwhile, what do the voters who want to vote Republican see? Republicans joining Democrats on bloated appropriations. Millions for gender transition clinics while you're telling us you're against it. Billions for refugee resettlement. A refusal to strip pork. Votes to protect activist judicial judges. Votes to protect agencies that Americans now see as ideological enforcement arms. And then, of course, we get the speeches on fiscal discipline. You think the voters are stupid. They're not stupid, and they're growing pissed. They see the stall tactics. They know what it is. They see the spending. They know what it is. They see members who are more afraid of a nasty op-ed in the stupid Washington Post than a primary challenger back at home. And here's the fatal miscalculation, John Cornyn and all you like him. Republican voters are done being managed. They're done being told to wait. They're done being told, well, now is not the time. When is the time? We're done watching the left use power ruthlessly, while we don't even want to use anything that's legal. If Republicans lose the majority, you are going to be blamed by the left for extremism. If you lose your base, you're going to be blamed by constitutional conservatives for cowardice. Go ahead, cowards. When you're blamed by both the left and the right, history tends to be a little unkind to you. This is bigger than one bill. This is truly about whether the Republican Party still believes it's an instrument of constitutional government or just a speed bump in front of progressive expansion. Trump has done all of your heavy lifting. He's taken the hits. He's reset the board. Now the question for you is simple. What did you do other than protect procedure, other than protect comfort, other than protect incumbency? It's not too late, but I'm telling you, the clock is ticking. There's time before November. Reconciliation exists. Talking filibusters can be enforced. Spending can still be cut. The SAVE Act can be forced to the floor, and you can win, but that requires energy, backbone. It requires senators who are willing to sweat on the floor instead of sweat in the green room explaining why nothing can be done. Because here's the reality. If you, as a Republican, if you keep running out the clock, you're not going to just lose the chamber. You're going to lose your primaries. You're going to fracture your party. And in the vacuum created by inaction, something far worse always grows. History teaches us when institutions refuse to act while the public loses faith, republics don't stabilize, they destabilize. And this time, if it collapses, nobody's going to believe it was an accident. They will say to you, you had the House, you had the Senate, you had the presidency, you had the mandate, and you chose alibis over action. Finish the damn job, or I warn you, history will finish it for you.